Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam, and I'm your host from Sam Tech. Today I've got a very exciting tutorial in store for all of you creative souls out there. We're going to dive into a full in-depth video tutorial on how to build a portfolio website. Your portfolio website is like your digital business card, your online showcase, or even your own personal art gallery. It's a place where you can display your finest works, projects, or achievements in a very visually stunning and easily accessible manner. By the end of this tutorial, you're going to see every single tip and trick that I use to build all my websites, as well as how to style and animate your elements to make it as simple or as goofy as you wish. I want to take a chance here to thank all of my subscribers and viewers. And if you enjoyed this video and would like to really encourage me to continue creating stunning content for everyone, I would like to ask to please like this video, leave a comment if you have any questions about this video or any other topics related to my channel, and please hit that subscribe button. And without further ado, let's jump right in to building your own portfolio website. So here we are on our WordPress dashboard. And if I go ahead and open up our website in a new tab, we can clearly see that we are with our default theme that got installed with WordPress. And just as my previous videos shown, the first step is to go into plugins, and we're going to need to add our new plugin in order to get our Astra theme. So I'm going to search plugins. I'm going to start typing starter templates. And this is the one that we want to install. Starter templates, Elementor, WordPress, and Beaver Builder templates. This is with our Astra theme. We're going to click install and activate. So now we can see that we have our starter templates installed over here. And one more plugin that I'm going to install is something called maintenance. And essentially what maintenance does is puts a maintenance screen on your website. It's kind of like a mask, and this I'm going to activate. And I'm going to go on the left here to maintenance to show you what it does. This we can click outside. We don't have to use any paid version. And when we click on preview, this is basically our maintenance screen where we can change the name, we can change the image and the message. We can say perhaps website is under construction. Please send all emails to XYZ email address. We can say our website is going to be launched on this date. This gives a way for the developer to put the website in kind of a maintenance mode, and you can perform all kinds of work on your website without worrying how it's going to show in the front end without it going live. So maintenance mode, we have it installed. I'm going to go back to my plugins, and we now are going to go to our starter templates over here. I'm going to click on C library. Okay, I'm going to click on build your website now. I'm going to click on Elementor. And since today we're building a portfolio website, I'm going to go here to professionals, and or personal sites rather, and I'm going to click on portfolio. And I'm going to scroll down. And for today's tutorial, I'm going to be using this theater artist template. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to leave everything default here on the left and click on skip and continue. I am also going to click on continue on the left. I'm going to leave this blank. I'm going to leave this ticked off, install and activate Astra theme, import widgets, install required plugins, import content, which is going to be all the images and text coming from the default template. Share non-sensitive data. I will untick this, and I'm going to click on submit and build my website. And in just a few moments over here, it's quite fast, we're going to see that our website theme is being downloaded and applied. And once that's done, it's going to redirect us, and congratulations, your website is ready, and it took 14 seconds. So I'm going to click on view your website. And now we can see that our theme has been applied to our website, and we have multiple pages. And I'm going to show you step by step how to transform this into a beautiful portfolio website that you could use to showcase your work, your art, and anything else needed for you to have a beautiful presence online. And let's get started with the dirty work. Now that we have our Astra theme installed and uploaded correctly, it's time to start editing the elements from the top to the bottom. And first things first is we need to change this logo over here. So I'm going to have to go into the customizer for that. So on the menu bar on top, I'm going to click on customize. This opens up the customizer for the website. And as previously shown in another tutorial video, you simply need to hover over an element in the customizer, such as the logo over here, and click on click to edit element. And from here, I need to go down to change logo. And it's asking me to upload a file. I have that in another folder. I'm going to simply drag and drop. And it's kind of hard to see because I have a white background with a transparent background, but I assure you that this is the correct logo. So now I'm going to click on select. I'm going to do skip cropping. And I'm going to unselect this different logo for Retina devices. And as you can see, our logo updated here. It is rather small, so I'm going to go ahead on the left-hand side and drag this to make it a little bit bigger. And here we can see we have Sam Studio Photography nicely uploaded. And I'm going to click on publish. And I can close this customizer now. So now we can see that our logo has been correctly updated. So let's go ahead and change the image over here as well as the title text. For that, I'm going to need to go into edit with Elementor. So I'm going to click on edit with Elementor. And as a side note, if I go back to my dashboard, I just want to show you that the plugins that got installed with the starter templates, we have Elementor. Maintenance is what we installed ourselves. Hello Dolly is a useless plugin that comes with every WordPress install nowadays, as well as a spam protection Akismet plugin. We also have the starter templates, which gave us the Astra theme, and WP Forms Lite, which is a form building plugin used to collect email addresses and send out newsletters, for example. So let's go back to our Edit with Elementor tab. And we need to change this background over here to an image of my choice. So I'm going to hover here to Edit section. And keep in mind that the navigator here, we can always close and reopen from the bottom left-hand side navigator. And this shows us all of the elements of our Elementor page. So once we clicked on Edit section, I'm going to go to Style, and we can see that there's a background image that by default has already been uploaded. So I want to change this to my own. I'm going to hover over the image on the left-hand side and click on Choose Image. And from here, we're able to select images from our library if we have already uploaded. If not, I'm going to click on Upload Files, and I'm going to go to my folder that you do not see right now and drag my new image onto the screen. Perfect. I'm going to select it, click on Select, and now we can see that our image has uploaded correctly over here. We also want to change the text over here because my name is not William Gilbert. I'm going to click on Edit Heading, or I can simply click on the heading itself and double click to highlight, but I'm going to click on Edit Heading, and on the left hand side here, I'm going to change this to Sam Adams, which is not my real name, but it's just a dummy name for now. Sam Adams, scroll down. I can click on this button, and we can see something interesting here where the button will actually link to a section on the page called Bio. And that's what happens when you click it. It'll actually scroll down to this bio section over here, and I'm going to explain how to further customize this. But let's say I want to change this text. I can simply go to text on the left hand side and scroll down to view more about me. Perfect. I'm going to click on update. I'm going to go back to my dashboard tab, and I'm going to right click on my website and open in a new tab. And we can see that our landing page, our home page, is now starting to look like my own customized portfolio. So let's continue with our tutorial over here. Let's scroll down to the next section. Here we have an area to put perhaps a small biography and a couple of awards that were won. And as I've mentioned earlier in this video, I'm going to be using ChatGPT to help me with all of this. And for yourselves, feel free to be inspired and write your own text, or perhaps ask for some help with ChatGPT. So here we have biography and awards, and that we can leave it as such. Here we have a heading, one of the greatest contemporary theater actor. So I want to replace this with something more relevant to my photography. So let's go to ChatGPT, and first I'm going to ask for a biography, and from that biography I'll be able to pull a heading. You're going to see it's going to be very simple. So in another tab I have my ChatGPT open, and I'm going to start typing, write me a biography write me a short biography for my homepage where I am a modern photographer. I shoot nature shots, weddings, product photography, and more. I have been doing this for 20 years. I'm going to hit enter, and let's see what kind of prompt it gives me. So it's actually giving me quite a long chunk of text here, and we can see in our home page in Elementor that I want to keep it rather small. So once this finishes generating, I can simply write a prompt. I can say reduce this biography in half. And this prompt is going to make the text much smaller. Okay, and I can say put this into 1 or 2 paragraphs. And we can see now that this prompt is looking more like what we want here. So let's go ahead and copy all of this and go back to Elementor. And I'm going to click here on edit the text editor. And we can see here that we have some dummy text that's placed over here. So let's go ahead and select all of that. I'm going to do Control A. I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard. And now I'm going to do Control V to paste the text from ChatGPT. We can see that it's rather long. Perhaps I'm going to change a bit of the text here. I am Sam Adams. And I'm going to maybe remove 1 or 2 sentences from the second paragraph over here. And let's remove this sentence right over here. Okay. So that looks great. And over here, we want to pull a heading that is relevant to this piece of text. So let's go back to ChatGPT. And I'm going to say a prompt, give me a heading for this piece of text. I'm going to hit enter. And let's regenerate this response. And I'm liking this, capturing beauty and emotion, a 20-year journey of modern photography. So let's go ahead and do Control C, copy. Let's go back to Elementor, click on edit heading, highlight the text, and Control V for paste. Capturing beauty and emotion, a 20-year journey of modern photography. Okay, and I want to place another image in this section over here. So I'm going to show you how to do that. On the left-hand side, at the top right, we click this icon over here. Oh, I'm sorry for the sound. And this brings us to all of the elements that we have access to in Elementor. And I want to put an image. So the image is right here, but I can also search for a widget. I can start typing image. There's image, there's an image box, image carousel, a basic gallery. So I want a simple image. So I'm going to click it and drag it just underneath this text over here. We can see that there's a horizontal bar that pops up as to where this image is going to be placed. If I put it up here, it's going to be under on top of this text. If I put it over here, we see it's going to go underneath this title over here. So let's put it right over here. I'm going to let go. And now we have a blank image box that we can go ahead on the left-hand side and hover over choose image. And I'm going to go once again to upload files, and I'm going to go into my folder on my desktop and drop the file over here. So we can see that this image properly uploaded, and I can go ahead and click on select. And now we have our image that appeared in our placeholder. I can play around with the image settings. On the left-hand side, there's image size. This does not correspond to literally the dimensions of how it's going to show up on your website. This corresponds to the maximum dimensions of the image file that will be used on your website. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but best practice is to change this image size setting from large to full. So just click over here and you'll be able to change that to full. And you can do an alignment perhaps if you would like to center the image, or left or right indent it. And underneath the style tab is where you can set perhaps a max width in percentage, and you can play around with the slider in order to change the size and to change its alignment. So I'm going to keep this left aligned. I'm going to make this slightly larger, just until it is roughly aligned with the bottom of this read more button. Okay, let's add one more thing. I want to add my signature here at the bottom. So once again, I'm going to have to go to this button to find all the elements that we can use in Elementor. And I'm going to take the heading element and I'm going to simply drag it so that the bar falls underneath this biography section. And over here on the left hand side, I'm going to highlight this placeholder text and I'm going to assign it Sam Adams. That looks great to me. If we wanted to change the color of the text, we can go to the style of the heading. We can edit the color using a color picker wheel. We can change details of the typography, such as the size, the weight. We can make it bolder. We can make it thin. So let's leave this at bold. We can change the style, such as making it italics or oblique. And we can underline, overline, etc. A lot of options to do here. But for now, this section is looking pretty good. Here we have a read more section, a read more button that when I click on edit this button, right now there is nothing linked to this button. Eventually, near the end of the video, we're going to be editing all the buttons on the page such that the pages are properly connected to each other. But for now, the section is looking pretty good. So stay tuned, and shortly we're going to go ahead and go back to ChatGPT in order to fill out the rest of the details. For now, I'm going to click on update. And when I go back to my website in my other tab, I'm going to scroll back to the top and hit refresh. And now we can see that we have our landing page. It's looking great. And when we scroll down, we have our new section for biography and awards. The biography section is nicely completed. And if we scroll down, this is the next section that we're going to work on. For this award section, I'm going to be going into ChatGPT, and here I'm looking for 6 different awards that happened in the last, let's just say, 10 years of my career. So let's go back to ChatGPT, and I'm going to give it a prompt, and I'm going to say, give me 6, we said 6, correct. Give me 6 awards that I have won pertaining to this biography. With the dates and titles which occurred in the last 10 years. And I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to wait for this to populate. Okay, so it chose to give me a title. It did not give me the year. That's okay. And a little bit of a example per title. And if we go back to my blog, we see that we have the date, we have a title, and a short little text explaining it. So this looks good to me. So I'm gonna go to my Elementor page, and I'm gonna start editing all of this over here. And I'm gonna start changing the years one by one. So I need to click on edit heading, and instead of 1990, I'm gonna put the year 2002. Okay, we will do 2005. 2005. Here, once again, instead of clicking on edit heading, I can just simply click on the actual numbers over here, double click and change. So I can do 2008, 2009, 2012, 2016, 2022. Okay, I'm going to go back to my ChatGPT tab. I'm going to highlight the first award and copy, Control C, go back to Elementor. I'm going to either click on edit heading, or I can right away go ahead and start double clicking all of this. So I'm going to click edit heading, go on the left, highlight all of the dummy text, and do Control V to paste. Nature's Canvas Award. I'm going to go back to ChatGPT and highlight this little piece of informational text, copy, Control C, go back to Elementor, click over here, highlight, and paste. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly fill out the rest over here. So we go back here, copy, we go here, paste, we're going to go here, copy, paste, copy, paste. So as you can see, when we use ChatGPT and Elementor, once you have the flow set up, the rest is simply about knowing your keyboard shortcuts. The main ones, we would have the copy, Control C, the paste, Control V. We have the undo, the Control Z. And once you have the habit of knowing the placement on the keyboard, it can be a very quick process to populate your website information like I'm doing right now. It becomes kind of like a second nature. You don't have to think too much, mechanical kind of movement. Okay, so we're just about done here. Perfect. So here we have our different awards along with the dates and some information. I want to, however, put a header over here saying my most, maybe not precious awards, but my most prestigious awards. Sorry, that's the word I would like to use. We need to add a header over here. And the way that I'm going to do it is maybe a little unconventional, but I find it just easier for me not to screw up the layout that's already nicely done. So I'm going to actually right click on this edit intersection button, and I'm going to click on duplicate. And all this is going to do is literally create a duplicate of the previous section that I just clicked. And I'm going to delete everything that's inside. So you can click and right click on delete, or you can left click and press delete on your keyboard. So I'm going to click and press delete. You can delete a whole column. You can delete an element at a time. So I'm going to delete this column and delete this column. So now we have an empty section over here. And I'm going to go to the buttons on top to find the elements. And I'm going to drag heading right over here and let go. And for the dummy text over here, I am going to write my most prestigious awards. Okay. And we want to change it to this yellow color over here. So I'm going to go to style. I'm going to do text color. And if I click on this button here, it opens up the color picker where I can choose any color really, either by playing around with the sliders or by inputting my own specific hex key over here. But what I want to do is match this color over here. And if I click on this custom color, we will see that there are already a bunch of pre-saved colors that came with our template. And we can see that there's a theme color 1. If I click that, we can see that it is exactly the same color as our titles over here, as well as our highlighted elements on top. So now that we have this text changed, we want to fix the orientation, or rather the padding, in order for this to be closer to this section over here. So for that, I need to click on this button, edit intersection, and I'm going to go to advanced, and I'm going to start by removing all the margins and the padding. I'm going to put this to 0, and I'm going to put the padding to 0. So now we can see that the section is really just the element that's over here. And I'm going to need to go to this section over here, edit intersection, and once again on the left hand side go to advanced. And I'm not going to remove the margin and the padding completely. I'm just going to slowly start to reduce. So we can see that by playing with the margin button, it's actually changing the spacing in between the sections. If I click on the padding is only changing the padding from the top of the section towards its inner elements. Okay, so I'm going to just hit Control-Z a few times. Okay, because I want to keep this padding equal to this padding. This padding here is also at 48, so I'm going to leave this at 48. So I'm going to only play around with the margin over here. And I can start dropping this down. And I'm going to keep it a nice number. We're going to keep it at 50. So if I have 50 margin over here, I also want to have 50 margin on top of it, such that it's creating a nice space between the biography and my awards. So I'm going to click on edit this section. Once again, go to advanced, and the margin, I removed it totally before, but I'm going to start putting back until I get to 50. You can either press these buttons or you can highlight the number and just type 50 if you wish. And sorry, now I'm going to click on update. And I'm going to go back to my website over here and click on refresh. We can see that our biography section is nicely uploaded. And we still have an issue here with the spacing of the text. So let's go ahead and fix that. I'm going to go back to Elementor and let's see what the issue is here. So if I click away, because I want to remove this highlight over here, if I click, let's say here, or over here rather, we can see that there is not only margin, but a padding thing that needs to be worked on. So if I click on perhaps edit heading and go to advanced, it will not be there. How about column? Neither. So I really think it has to do with the section. So I will have to add padding to the section. Let's add perhaps 20. We can see that it is not quite enough. Actually, if we go to edit this section, we can see that there is 50. So we will need to go back to this section and we will need to add 50. I believe that's going to be solving our issue, and I'm going to click on update. I'm going to go back to my website over here, click refresh, and we see that our most prestigious awards is now properly aligned evenly in between these two lines. Okay, looking great so far. Next, we're going to cover this section over here where we have repertoire. We can instead call this our section of perhaps types of photography that I do. So I will have 3 sections over here with some dummy text that we will fill from ChatGPT. And we'll continue further on to fill out the rest of the home page. So please stick around and enjoy the rest of the tutorial. Now we're going to go ahead and start editing the rest of the home page. So we have a section here that we're going to work on. And for that, once again, I'm going to go back to Elementor and scroll down to this section over here. Instead of repertoire, I'm going to click over here and edit the title on the left-hand side. I'm going to say my types of work, and I'm going to go to ChatGPT, and I'm going to say a prompt, write me a header for, I'm going to put in quotation marks, my types of work, comma, given the biography above. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to wait for an answer to generate. We can see that today the generation speed is actually quite faster than my previous video. So here we have a nice title, my types of work, capturing nature's beauty, love's embrace and timeless moments. I'm going to copy this and go back to my homepage editor in Elementor. And I'm going to click on this section and select this all and paste. Control V. Okay, this is looking okay. And I'm going to click on update just to save the text and go back to my website and hit refresh to see that everything is looking okay so far. It's looking great. Before I move on to editing these images and text, I just want to take a moment to ask my viewers to please like this video and leave any comments in the section below. I will definitely answer every single one of your comments. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, it really helps my YouTube channel grow and really encourages me to create more nice content and tutorials like this one for you. Thank you for that. So let's go back to our Elementor page. And I'm going to start editing these 3 sections. And my type of photography portfolio has to do with nature, with wedding photos, and perhaps product photos. So I'm going to actually change this text over here. Instead of timeless moments, I'm going to write beautiful products. Okay, and I'm going to edit these images now. I'm going to select this button by clicking edit image box. So this is actually an image box and not just an image element. The image box element gives you not only the image, but it gives you a title and a description as well, which we're going to use using ChatGPT. So for now, I want to change this image. I'm going to click on choose image. And once again, I'm going to upload a few files this time. These files are going to be for the rest of this section. So I'm going to start with this image here. I'm also going to upload this image here. And I'm going to upload this image here. So I'm going to select the first one being nature. This is my nature photo. I'm going to click on select. And now we can see that the image has uploaded nicely here. And I'm going to do the same for the other 2 sections. So I'm going to click over here, choose image. I'm going to select this one that I've uploaded, select. Perfect. Same thing over here, edit, choose image. Click select. Perfect. And now I'm going to ask ChatGPT for some help to fill in these pieces of text over here. So I'm going to go back to ChatGPT and write a prompt saying, write me 3 image titles for my 3 types of photography. Colon, I'm going to write nature, comma, weddings, comma, product, and I'm going to hit enter. Let's see what this gives me. Enchanting landscapes, embracing nature's majesty, eternal love, a timeless embrace, exquisite details showcasing the art of products. These look like nice titles over here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the first one. I'm going to go back to Elementor and I'm actually going to place it in the description. I'm going to hit Control V. Oops, sorry, I'm editing the wrong one over here. Let's go back to this one, edit image box. I'm going to highlight the description and do Control V. And for the title, I'm going to write nature photography. Perfect. Now for the second one, I'm going to go back to ChatGPT and highlight this title, Control C, copy, go back to Elementor, click on edit, highlight the description or click Control A to select all. And then I can just simply do Control V to paste the text on my clipboard. Perfect. And here I'm going to write wedding photography. Perfect. And for the last one, go back to ChatGPT. I'm going to get the third title. I'm going to copy, go back to Elementor, and I'm going to click on this edit image box, and I'm going to select all this, Control V to paste. And the title, I'm going to write product photography. I'm going to click on update and go back to my website to hit refresh. One thing I want to change, because I'm a little nitpicky with the details, I want this to remain on 2 lines instead of 3 lines so that it matches the other 2 sections. So let's go back to Elementor. And this is going to be just a question of finding the right wording. We can see that exquisite is a long word, so is showcasing. So we have to change one of these words. And instead of exquisite, perhaps I will write in the details showcasing the art of products. Let's click on update. Go back to our website and hit refresh. And now we can see that my types of work has beautifully uploaded and everything seems to be properly adjusted for number of lines and spacing and whatnot. So this is excellent right now. If we keep scrolling down, we have another section called tours. And instead of tours, I'm going to be creating a section for my upcoming exhibits. So please stay tuned and let's tackle this right now. For this section, we're going to need to go ahead and edit this in our Elementor tab. If for some reason you have closed your Elementor tab by mistake, you can simply click anytime on Edit with Elementor on the page, and it's going to bring us up to our page editor within Elementor. So we scroll down to our section, and we want to edit this. Instead of tours, I'm going to write upcoming exhibits. And in order to fill in the rest, we're going to find a prompt on ChatGPT. So here, I'm going to give it a prompt in order to write me a title for my page, write me a heading for my upcoming exhibits. Upcoming exhibits, a visual journey through nature's canvas, love's embrace and product elegance. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. If I don't like it, I can always click on regenerate. Through the lens, a visual odyssey of nature, love, and craftsmanship. That sounds quite better, so I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And let's go back to our Elementor page. I'm going to select all of this and hit paste, Control V. Perfect. And we can see that now our actual exhibits down here need to be edited. The date, the title, and the description. If you want to remove one, you can simply remove a section by clicking on X, and if you wanted to make a mistake and go back, you can just do Control Z and it'll reappear on the page. So let's, after this, go ahead and start populating our exhibits. I'm going to use ChatGPT as before, and afterwards I want to add an image to this section, and we're going to make this really much more visually appealing. So let's go back to ChatGPT. I'm going to write a prompt. I'm going to say, give me 6 exhibits. Sorry, 6 upcoming exhibits. I'm struggling over here. All right, exhibits with an H. That's my bad. Give me 6 upcoming exhibit titles that would be in the following cities. And I have randomly chosen these cities in order to populate my page. So I'm gonna write Boston, New York City, Montreal, Los Angeles, Toronto, and Miami. I'm going to click on enter, and now it is quite fast today. It is populating a list of 6 different exhibits in my cities that I've given. These are some nice titles, and it's going to be a question now of copying these titles and pasting them in my heading. So for the first one, I'm going to go back and highlight this title. I'm going to do Control-C or right-click and copy. And I'm going to go back here, highlight the text, and Control-V to paste. Perfect. And we're going to need to do this for the remaining 5 titles over here. So it's a matter of copying this one, highlighting the text and pasting. For the third one, for my Montreal exhibit, copy, click, paste, copy, paste. You can see me doing this quite fast. Okay, here we have an issue. It doesn't like sometimes when we copy directly and paste, so let's highlight all of this text in the heading, delete, and Control-V to paste. Let's go to the 5th one. We're going to click on copy, go back, and click on paste. Perfect. So now we have our 6 titles. We're also going to need a description for each of this title. If I wanted to add one, I can just duplicate and change the information. However, I'm going to do Control-Z and undo that. So now let's go ahead and find some description text. Let's go back to ChatGPT. I'm going to write it a prompt. Write me a sentence about each of the above exhibits. I'm going to hit enter, and now we can see ChatGPT is populating a description for each of the above exhibits. Notice that I didn't have to repeat the actual cities. So I'm going to copy the first one and go back to Elementor. I'm going to click edit this element. I'm going to highlight all this text and do Control-V to paste. Perfect. And I'm going to have to do the same for the remaining exhibits coming up. Control paste, copy, go to this section here, paste, copy, and paste, and the last one, copy, and paste. So it seems that we only have 5 exhibits and not 6, and I'm okay with that for the sake of this tutorial. You can always add and remove, so I'm going to click on update. Let's go back to my dashboard and open up my website in a new tab, and let's scroll down. Perfect. And over here we now see that our exhibit titles and descriptions have been updated. We see here, because I'm nitpicky, that we have two titles that are on 3 lines. I want to keep this on 2 lines. So let's maybe change this word to, let's go here and photo. Okay, not bad. What if I remove this and maybe wrote photographic? No, unfortunately that jumps to 3 lines. That's okay. Let's leave it at photo journey of weddings. Very simple. And for this third one, let's perhaps edit these words. There's a few very long words. Let's remove this in products, and we can just keep it celebrating craftsmanship. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's click on update and go back to our blog and our website and hit refresh. Now we see that our titles are all on 2 lines. Now we can go ahead and change the date. So for that, I'm going to need to click on edit element and change the date. I'm going to write, let's see, let's put September 23. Okay, perfect. And underneath that, I want to add perhaps the city that it's in. So let's right click on this button and I'm going to hit duplicate. And I'm going to edit this text. Instead of September 23, a duplicate time. We know that our first exhibit's in Boston. So I'm going to write Boston. Okay, perfect. And we want to add an image over here. So in order to do that, I need to click on these little buttons over here, which opens up all the elements of Elementor. And we can see here that I can just simply drag image, always checking where the horizontal line is being applied. And I'm going to let go. Here we have our image placeholder. And we can see it's a bit close to the text. I'm going to show you how to fix that in a bit. So let's go ahead and choose the image and upload a file. And for this one, I have selected a Boston photo. So let's select that. And we can see the image on the left. The settings, let's, as default, keep this at full, as shown previously. Here, it's a matter of editing the padding or margin of this column in order for the text to not stick to this image. So in order to do that, I'm going to click on this column over here. And now we're at the edit column menu. On the right of the style, we have advanced. Here I'm going to be adding padding to the left-hand side of this column. And as you see, when I increase this value, all the elements are being padded against the left-hand side of the column. So this is now creating a space. As I increase, it's increasing the padding. So let's leave it at a nice number. We'll leave it at 25. So now we can click on update. And if we go back to our website and hit refresh, we can see that now there is padding in between our text. Our titles and images have been uploaded. And it's looking good so far. So one thing I can do is change the alignment of that chunk of text in order for it to fall closer to the image. But maybe I also want to add a button over here in order for us to purchase a ticket or bring us to a website of the actual exhibit. So we can start by typing a button, or we can find it on the main page under basic elements and simply drag the button onto the page using the drag and drop feature. Always being careful of where it's going to land up. We can see it's can be placed here. can be placed up here. So let's place it right over here, and I'm going to let go. So now we have our button, and I'm going to go ahead and edit this button. And instead of having a click here, I'm going to start typing buy tickets. And eventually we will have a link to place in the link settings on the left. So this is our button. And over here, you'll be able to place your website link. Perhaps it goes to Ticketmaster, perhaps it goes to a museum. And another thing we want to do perhaps is fix the alignment of this button such that it lines up with the bottom of the image. This is just for aesthetic purposes. So I'm going to click on Edit button. I'm going to go to Advanced. And I'm going to unselect these buttons. These basically link the values together. And as you see, if it is selected, it will move all the margin settings together, but that's not what we want. So I'm going to unselect because I want to specifically add only to the top. So in this case, I'm going to start adding margin to the top. And as you see, when I add, it actually drops the button. So let's keep adding over here until it is roughly at the bottom of the image. We're going to have to keep going. Okay, so this is at 55 pixels. This is looking pretty good. Now I'm going to click on Update and go back to my website and hit refresh. And now we see that our button has officially been aligned with the bottom of the image. Being nitpicky once again, I also want to bring this piece of text down such that it is also aligned with the top of the image. So let's go back to Elementor and let's click on Edit this text box and go to Advanced. I'm going to unlink the values as we did prior. And in this case, I need to start adding margin to the top. And as you see, it brings the text down, but it also brings the buttons down. So I should have perhaps done this at first, and that's okay. So let's leave this at 15 pixels. Let's go back down to our button over here, click on Edit, and let's start decreasing this until we see it being aligned with the bottom of the image. So this would be at 45. This is looking great. And we can see that all of our images and text are aligned. Let's click on Update. Let's go back to our website and hit refresh. And now we can see that our text and buttons are all aligned with our images over here. And I'm going to have to go ahead now and fill in the rest of the exhibits. And I will catch you shortly once that is done. And I will meet you in a bit. I've completed all of them except for the last one, I wanted to show you some quick tricks in order to actually speed up the process like I've done. So this is the same method over here. We can put this as July 24. Right click and duplicate, and here I can write Toronto. And for this image, I can simply right click and do duplicate, and I can drag this as we've dragged other elements before and put it right over here. I'm going to go here to choose image, upload files, and from here I'm going to upload my image for Toronto and click select. Perfect. This whole column, we want it the same as this column, so I can actually copy this column and go to this one, right click, and instead of paste, I'm going to do paste style. So it's going to paste all the styling options from that column, so we can see the padding has updated, as well as, okay, here actually we're going to need to shorten this text because we want it on 2 lines. So let's click here, excuse me, and let's remove the last word. So once again, I'm going to right click on this and do copy, right click over here and do paste. Sorry, I'm going to do paste style. So now we can see the padding has properly increased. And for the button, I'm going to do right click, copy. I'm actually going to click here on edit, right click and do paste. So it's going to actually paste the button right below it, and we can see that the alignment is correct. And when I click on update, I'm going to go back to my website tab and click on refresh. Here we can see that all of our upcoming exhibits have uploaded, as well as our buttons, and everything is looking great. So let's finish off this first page. Let's replace this image. So we know that the next show coming up is in Boston. So let's go back to Elementor, and here we can write, instead of upcoming show, I can put upcoming exhibit, and I can put the text from the Boston. We can just call it, I'm going to copy this text, ephemeral ecosystems. I'm going to do Control-C to copy. I'm going to go back down here, click over here and edit this text, select all and do Control-V to paste. And I can take the text from here. If I don't like this text, if I don't want to copy it completely, I can, first of all, copy this text. I can go back to ChatGPT and I can say a prompt, rewrite the following, colon, and I'm going to put quotation marks and do Control-V to paste. And I'm going to close my quotation marks and hit enter. And it's actually going to reword the text over here. So now I'm going to copy this, Control-C, go back to Elementor, and scroll down to this ephemeral ecosystems, not sure how to pronounce it. I'm going to click here on this text editor, and I'm going to paste the new text from ChatGPT. So here we have the text, and we can see that there is some padding being done over here. If we go to this column over here and click on edit and go to advanced, we can see that there is a padding on the right hand side, and I can actually reduce this. And we can see by reducing it, the text is actually sticking closer to the edge over there. So let's remove it altogether and put this to 0. Perfect. Here we can change the date. We had set it to September 2023. So this, we can put it to 2023. And September is going to be the September, July. It's going to be the 9th month, and we can leave this as September 14th, 2023. We can leave this buy tickets over here. This is going to be our button, and in the future we'll be able to link. And I want to edit this image, so let's click over here and click on choose image and upload files. And once again, I'm going to upload a new image for Boston and click on select. And now we can see that we have our image for our upcoming exhibit over here. But I want to keep it in line with this buy tickets button over here. So we have image size set to full. I'm going to go to the style tab, and with max width in percentage, I'm going to slowly drag this up until it is roughly right at the bottom of buy tickets. We can see it's not very far from 100, but it was not 100. It is roughly at 97%. So this is looking pretty good, and I can go ahead and click on update. And when I go back to my blog and click on refresh, we can see that my upcoming exhibit is now updated over here. For the last section, this is our little subscribe section for our users to input their email addresses. I'm going to show you how to update this and change it. However, if we go back to Elementor, we can see that it is not actually done over here within Elementor. We're going to need to go into Customizer, and for that, I'm going to show you in the next section how to do that. For this section, in order to edit it, we're going to need to go into the Customizer settings. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to actually close this tab. I'm going to keep ChatGPT open, and if we go back to our dashboard and open up our website in a new tab, we can see that everything here is complete up until the footer. So I'm going to click over here on Customize. This is our customizer now. As we can see, we can edit images in the header over here. Nothing in the middle since it's all Elementor, but if we scroll down, we can now start editing these sections over here. So once again, if we click on this edit button, we are now customizing what's called the above footer, where we can change things such as number of columns. We can add a second column or 3 columns. We can change the dimensions of the columns. For now, we're going to leave it as a single column as before. And here we have stay updated, subscribe to my show updates. So let's say we wanted to edit this over here. We can simply click on it, click over here on got it. And here, this is actually a widget. Now, a widget is a chunk of elements that can be configured ahead of time. And in this case, we're using a WP Forms shortcode over here. Now, what is WP Forms? If I go back to my dashboard, and on the left-hand side, there is a WP Forms tab. If I click it, this basically shows us all of our forms. These ones came with the default template, and we can see that they each have a shortcode over here. If you're unsure of what these shortcodes do, I can create a whole other video on how to use shortcodes. But for now, in our customizer, we see that we have a WP Forms ID 9, and this corresponds to this email and subscribe button set up over here. If I go back to the other tab, this WP Forms 9 is our subscribe form. I can click on preview over here, and this shows a preview of the form. So this is the one that we want. And instead of subscribe to my show updates, I can change this title to subscribe to my to my exhibit updates. Okay, that's looking pretty good to me. And if we scroll down, we can see that we can also edit this over here. Now this is a menu at our footer menu. We can always edit this menu to add and remove certain pages or elements. We can also click on this, edit this element, and we can see here, this is basically on the bottom, our layout of our footer over here and above footer. So we have a widget, which is our subscribe. Then we have another element over here for a widget, which I believe at the moment is empty, or perhaps there's a logo over here. We can actually replace this logo with our own. So I'm going to do replace image. And as you remember, we have a logo that was updated earlier. I'm going to click on that and do add to widget. And we can see that our logo appeared over here. Now feel free to click on this image and we can edit the size. But this size looks pretty decent for me. And if we click over here, we can edit these social icons. I could add a social icon, perhaps my LinkedIn page. I could also hide a certain icon or not. And within each social icon, I can click. I can change the label if I want to show a label or not. Now we have it as hidden, but if I click on show, we also have the labels pop up, but I can keep it hidden for now. And for each one, I can change an icon. I can change the label. I can also put my custom URL to go towards my Instagram page, my LinkedIn, my Facebook, or whatever you would like to use. Perfect. And our last section here is copyright. If I click either over here or on this over here, it'll bring me up to the settings of this copyright element. And here we have in brackets copyright, which gives us the symbol, the current year, my site title, and then powered by site title. So this is something that we're going to change in the settings and it's going to show up over here. So assuming that we're okay with all this section over here, before hitting publish, I'm going to hit the back arrow over here once. I'm going to hit it again. Now we're on the main settings, and if I find over here site identity and I click on site title and logo settings, so we have our transparent, we have our white logo here. It's kind of hard to see. And if we go down to site title, I want to change this from the simple my blog. I'm going to write Sam Studio. And as I started to type that, we can see here that it updated in real time. And we now see copyright 2023 stamp Sam Studio powered by Sam Studio. And our tagline, which is what's going to appear on our tab over here, and we can see the tab is opening up and saying Sam Studio, my WordPress blog. We can say Sam Studio, we can say photographer and artist. Okay, and that's going to show up in our tab over here. So now that I'm happy with this, I'm going to click on publish. I'm going to go back to my dashboard over here and open up my site in a new tab. And this is what our homepage is looking like right now. And if we scroll down, we can see that all of our other elements have updated, as well as our footer has changed to reflect our logo. as well as our site title. So for now, I'm going to consider this homepage complete. Let's get started with changing our biography page to reflect my personal portfolio. Once we're on the biography page, I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit with Elementor. And as we've done in the previous section, I'm going to work from the top down. I'm going to close this navigator section over here, and at any time you can go back and open up the navigator. And if you made it this far into this tutorial, I would kindly ask you to please like this video and leave any comments, as well as subscribe to my channel. It really helps me encourage to continue producing nice content for my viewers. So let's go ahead and edit this element, this heading. I'm going to click on Edit Heading, and instead of biography, we can write My Biography. And I'd like to change this color into our global color. As you can see, if I go into the Style tab on the left and I click on this icon, this opens up the global colors, and I'm going to choose Theme Color 1. And this changes our color to the theme color. I'm also going to change this image over here by clicking on this Edit Image button. And once again, I'm going to, on the left, choose an image. I'm going to go to Upload Media, Upload Files, and I'm going to drag an image from my desktop, and I'm going to click on Select. And now we can see our image has occupied this space. If we want to make it slightly smaller, so on the left-hand side, we have image size set to full, which is correct. And if I go into style, I can adjust the max width as a percentage. So we can create a smaller image if we want to. So I can leave this at, let's say, 70%. I can also type 70% or 75%, so we'll leave it at 75. Okay, perfect. We're going to need to change some of this text over here, and we can see that there is a timeline. Let's go to ChatGPT and ask for a header to be placed over here. So I'm going to simply give it a prompt and say, write me a header for my biography section. I'm going to hit enter. Give it a moment to populate. Okay, so I like this. I'm going to do Control-C to copy. I'm going to go back to biography. And I'm going to click on this element to open up the settings on the left. And I'm going to select all the text, delete, and do Control-V to paste. And I'm going to change this section of your name. I'm going to put Sam Adams. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And I'm also going to change the color of this heading because I want to keep it consistent with my theme color over here. So let's go into Style and Text Color. I'm going to click on this global color icon, and choose Theme 1. Perfect. And I'm going to go back to ChatGPT to fill in this text. So let's give it another prompt. Write me a short paragraph to place under this heading, this header. And we'll give this a moment to populate an answer. Okay. So let's copy this text, go back to Elementor, click on this element, and select all of this dummy text. delete. I'm going to paste the text. And I'm going to change this to Sam. I'm also going to add a line skip over here just to add a different paragraph. Okay, perfect. If it's too long, feel free to remove. If it's too short, feel free to add. And here we have a section of a couple of dates. And we're going to go ahead and ask ChatGPT for 4 dates. But in fact, I want to make it 5 different dates of perhaps life or professional events that occurred. So in order to create 5 instead of 4, I simply need to right click on this image box and I'm going to hit on duplicate. And now we can see that a 5th one has appeared over here. And now we're going to go to ChatGPT and ask for a prompt in order to fill in this section over here. So in our ChatGPT tab, I'm going to give it a prompt because I need 5 different dates. So I'm going to say, give me 5 events to add to my biography ranging from the years 2000 to 2023. I'm going to hit enter and see what it gives me. Okay, so it's actually populating quite a decent response for me. And this is going to finish in just a moment. So now we have our 5 events to add to our biography section. And I actually want to create something that's a little bit more interactive than just this simple 5 sections over here. So when I go into Elementor and I click on this button over here to view all the elements, I'm going to add something that's called a toggle. You can search for toggle or find it in the page. So I'm going to take toggle and I'm going to drag it right over here and let go. So what a toggle element is, basically you can add elements and the user can toggle them open and closed. And we can add numerous ones here. So I want to have 5, so I'm going to do add item. I'm going to keep doing add item until we have 5 items over here. So now you can see we have 5 items. And I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste the text from ChatGPT into each one. So on the left hand side we have toggle 1. I'm going to click toggle 1. And this opens up the settings for toggle 1, including the title and the content. So let's go to ChatGPT, copy this title, copy, go back to Elementor. I'm going to paste it here. So here we can see 2000, embarking on photographic journey. This is our first toggle, which is basically our first element in my biography. And I'm going to go back to ChatGPT and copy this text. And I'm going to paste it here in the content section of this toggle. I'm going to do Control V. Now we are pasted over here. Okay. And we can go ahead and change certain settings for the style of this toggle. If I go into style, so we're able to play around with the border width, the spacing in between, I want to change the title by changing the color definitely, because we want to make it fluent with our other color scheme that's going on. So if I choose on color, there's color and there's active color. So active color is going to only change when, so let's say I select the active color icon here and click on theme color 1. It's going to change the color of the title only for the active toggle. So if you see, if I click on another toggle here, whichever toggle is open, it's going to stay into our theme color. Then if I close the toggle, it's going to go back to white. We can also change it such that the color is always going to be in this. So perhaps I will undo that by doing Control Z. And we'll keep it such that when you open it, it's going to change the color. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the details for the rest of the toggles. So now we're in toggle 2. I'm going to copy the second title here, go back to biography, paste, copy this text, copy, go back here, paste. So I'm going to continue for the rest. I'm going to do this very quickly. We have copy, paste, copy, paste. Now for the fourth one, we have copy, and we have copy here, paste, and for the last one, we're going to do copy, and we're going to do copy here and paste. So now we see that our toggle section has updated. Which allows us to go ahead and start deleting these sections here. So you can click and either right click and hit delete, or you can left click on the element and hit delete on your keyboard. Also works. So I'm going to click, hit delete, click, hit delete, click, hit delete. So now we have our toggle section here. And I'm going to click on update. I'm going to go back to my dashboard and open up our website in a new tab. And I'm going to go ahead to biography section. We can see that our title and image has uploaded, as well as our header over here and our text. And we have our beautiful toggle section where a user can open up a certain section and read more about this event that happened in 2011, for example. So this section is looking pretty good. Now I'm going to continue on to update the rest of the page. For the next section, we have a couple of images here and another award section, which we have already on our main page. So I'm going to actually put a different element there, which you will find very interesting. So without further ado, let's go back to our Elementor tab and scroll down. So here we have a bunch of images. I can go ahead and edit image one by one, but I want to create perhaps another more interactive feature for this page. And I'm going to go into my elements button on the top left over here, and I'm going to pick I'm going to search for image carousel. So here we have an image carousel. I'm going to show you what it does. So I'm going to go ahead and drag it, and we need to find a good spot for it. And as you can see, I don't really have a good spot right now. It's going to place it underneath another image. So I'm going to go back and just drop it on the left here. Nothing's going to happen. And what we need to do is actually create a new section altogether. So I can click on this button here, add section. It's going to add a section on top of this section. And I'm going to click on this button again, add new section. And I'm going to go for a simple single column structure. You can do double or triple. So let's stick with a single. So now we have a single section waiting for me to put an element inside. So now I'm going to go back to my elements button on the top left. And I'm going to search now for image. I'm going to find the image carousel, and I'm going to simply drop it over here. So now we have our image carousel, it's empty. On the left-hand side, we have a place to add images, as well as play around with the image settings, such as the size, slides to show, scrolls, slides to scroll, etc., etc. So let's go ahead and start populating this carousel. So I'm going to click over here on add images. Once again, I need to upload some images, and I have 4 images that are already taken from my desktop. So I'm going to start uploading them. So here we have 1. I'm going to upload another one over here. So that's going to be 2. I'm going to upload another one over here. That's going to be 3. And I'm going to go ahead and upload this one as well. That's going to be 4. So as you see, we have 4 items here selected. I'm going to go ahead and click on create a new gallery. Perfect. And I'm going to click on insert gallery. Okay, so we see that we have our images here. It looks a little bit funky right now. So what we need to do is start playing around with the settings on the left. So image size, instead of thumbnail, I'm going to put this to medium size. Okay, let's see what other settings we have. Slides to show. I can put this to 4. And of course you can add way more than just 4 images. So here we have our 4 images. Slides to scroll is left default. So if it's just a 1, it's going to scroll 1 at a time. If we set this to 2, we'll be able to scroll 2 at a time. Oops, I'm sorry. Okay. Image stretch is set to no. If we set to yes, what's going to happen is it's going to stretch in order to fill this whole box. So we can keep this to no. Navigation, we have arrows and dots. We can keep it at arrows, dots, or none. So let's keep this at arrows and dots. We're also able to change the icons if we like. So here we have our previous and next icons set up as so. If we want to change the icon, we can either upload one. We can go to our library and search for all icons and perhaps type in arrow. We have different kinds of arrows that we can upload. We could add link, and we can add a caption as well. Additional options, we have autoplay, pause on hover. So when you hover over an element, it's not going to scroll anymore. Pause on interaction, autoplay speed, infinite loop, animation speed. We can reduce this, and we can see that the animation now is much quicker. We can also slow this down, and the animation is much slower. We can slow down even more. Now it's giving us more of that smooth feeling to it. Okay. If we go into style, we're able to play around with some style settings for the navigation. Example, the arrows. We can, instead of inside, have them outside. Instead of having it over the image. I think it looks better like that. We're able to change the size of the arrows, of course, and make them quite large or much smaller. And if ever you want to undo, you just do Control Z, and it brings us back to our default size. Pagination, again, this is the little dots over here. We can have it inside or outside. We can change the size and the color. So for example, we have the color and active color. I want to change the active color by clicking on this global color icon, and I'm going to put my theme color 1. So now we have our theme color 1 for our little dots down here. Okay, let's keep going. On the left hand side image, I'm going to open up this tab. And here we have vertical align, so I can change the alignment of the images. Right now, I believe it's set to the top. We can set it to the middle. So you see the differences. The images are now centered over here. So that's looking much more fluid. Spacing is set to default. You can add a custom image spacing. Right now it's at 20 pixels, I believe. You can decrease or increase the spacing. So we can leave this at 20. Border type, we can add a border to these images. Right now we can add a solid border, for example. So now you can see that there was a border that appeared. We can change the width of the border. We can also change the color of the border, as done for other elements. So we can put our theme color as a border, for example, and I find this a little bit too thick, so I'm going to reduce this. Let's leave it at 5. So now we have our elements over here, which is kind of just a showcase of some of my photography products. So we agree now that we do not need this section whatsoever. So I can go ahead and click on X to delete this whole section. So now we have our My Biography title, an image, header, some text. We have our toggle element. Now we have an image carousel. And maybe we want to add a piece of text underneath just to explain what this carousel is. So I'm going to go on the left hand side to my elements over here. I'm going to go to basic and I'm going to find a heading, and I'm going to simply start dragging this, and I'm going to place it right underneath this carousel. I'm going to drop it, and over here I'm going to add some text. Instead of this placeholder text, I'm going to write some of my beautiful photos. Okay. Perhaps we don't want to have this as such a large title. So here the HTML tag is H2. This means that this piece of text is going to follow all the styling rules for a header level 2. And if you see, if we play around with this and we put it to H3, it makes it slightly smaller, H5 even smaller, H6 even smaller. So let's leave this at maybe H3. And I want to center this. So alignment, I'm going to put to center. And I want to change the color, of course. So I'm going to go to Style, Text Color. I'm going to click on this global icon and choose my theme color 1. And here we have our title and carousel, nicely done. And our next section for awards, since we already have an awards section on the home page, I'm going to go ahead and just delete these elements in here, and I'm going to replace it with something a little bit more interactive. So I'm going to delete all of this inside. So in fact, I'm just going to delete this section altogether. So I'm going to right click and click on delete. And I'm going to right click here and click on delete. And I'm going to delete these individual elements over here. So I'm going to click, left click and press delete on my keyboard. And I'm going to left click and delete on my keyboard. So now we have a section that is empty and waiting for an element over here. So before I go any further, I'm going to click on update. I'm going to go back to my website and my biography page. I'm going to hit refresh. So now this is what our page looks like so far. I'm going to scroll down. We have our toggle element working nicely. And we have our image carousel that is scrolling around, only 4 images at this point, but you can put 10, 20 images, and we can change all the settings as previously shown. And as we continue, we have our footer, above footer, and footer as well. So I want to add one more element here that I'm going to show you in the next little bit. Okay, so let's go back to our Elementor page, and I'm going to show you what to add over here. I'm going to go to my Elementor Elements button, and I'm going to search for something called a counter. So here we have counter. It's an element. I'm going to show you what happens when we drop it. So I'm going to take it, drop it into this element. As you see, we have a counter that basically shows a number that goes from a predefined value that you set. So here, for example, we have a starting number, ending number. There's a prefix, a suffix, duration for the counter. There's a separator. There's a bunch of different settings to go with this counter. So for example, instead of the title of it being cool number, I'm going to change this to photos taken. And this ending number, instead of 100, I'm going to put, let's see, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. We'll put 1,000,000. So 1,000,000 photos taken. The prefix is the item that's going to go before this number. So if I put a plus sign, for example, from my keyboard, we now have a plus sign in front. So this reads as over 1,000 photos taken. I can reduce this animation. Let's cut it in half from 2,000 milliseconds to 1,000 milliseconds, or even 500 milliseconds. Okay. And we want to, again, perhaps change some of the typography or colors over here. So if we go into style and text color, so there's the number that can be changed. We also have the title, which is the photos taken, that can also be changed. So under the number, we can leave it in this color, but the title, I want to change it to my theme color. So let's click on this and change theme color 1. Okay, perfect. And I'm going to show you a trick on how to create perhaps 3 of these side by side instead of 1. So I'm actually going to right click on this column, edit column. I'm going to right click, I'm going to hit duplicate. So now it created 2 side by side. I'm actually going to click duplicate again. So now we have 3 side by side. So I'm going to leave the most right hand side element the same. I'm going to leave this as photos taken. Perhaps here in the middle, I'm going to change, instead of photos taken, I'm going to write exhibit shows. And instead of 1,000,000, obviously, I'm going to reduce this down to perhaps 75. And I'm going to really reduce this duration because 500 is way too much. Let's try 100. Oops. Or even slower, let's try 10. Okay, the minimum is 100, that's okay. So we have 71 exhibit shows, 1,000,000 photos taken, and let's change the first one. Instead of photos taken again, we can put happy clients, and we can change this to 250. Okay, perfect. So here we have our 3 counters. We can also change this down to 100. Let's click on update, go back to our website in the other tab, click on refresh. So now you see that we have our counter elements that have populated the section over here. But I want to perhaps create a space in between here or a line, and also give a heading to this section over here. So let's go back to Elementor. And let's add a line in between this section and this section. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to click on this button, edit section. I'm going to go to style, and I'm going to go down to border, and border type, I'm going to select solid. And for the width, so as you see, if I start increasing this number, it's going to add a border to all sides of this section, and that's because we have this link of values together. So I'm going to put everything back down to 0. I'm going to unlink, and for now I just want to add a border to the top of this section in order to create a spacing in between these 2 sections. Therefore, I'm going to only add width to the top, perhaps 2 pixels or 1 pixel even, and I'm going to change the color. I'm going to put a black color for now. So in our theme colors, there should be a black over here, and we can confirm by seeing that the hex value is 000,000. So I'm going to click on that. It might be hard to see right now, but I'm going to click on update, and I'm going to go back to my biography very quickly and hit refresh. And now we can see that there is a line over here. Of course, we want to add some more spacing between this text and this line. So how do we do that? We go back to Elementor. And for this section, I can click on Edit Section. And if I go to Advanced, we're going to have to add some margin to the bottom. So once again, I'm going to unselect the values. And I'm going to start increasing this value at the bottom. And as you can see, it's starting to push away this section from the line. So let's add something like 35 pixels. I'm going to hit update, go back to my website and hit refresh. And now you can see that we've added some spacing over here. So this is looking pretty good. And over here, I want to add perhaps a heading and an image for this section. So back in Elementor, I'm going to go ahead and actually create a piece of text. So in my elements here, we have heading. Let's drag this. Actually, we're going to need to create, so here we have 3 columns. I'm going to have to create a new section over here, add new section for a single column in order to place, or if we want to place an image and a text, we can do a 2-column. So 2-column structure. Here we're going to have our heading. So I'm going to go to Elements, add a heading. I'm going to drop it here. And I'm going to go here to image, and I'm going to drag an image here. So for my heading, I'm going to change this text to some numbers about Sam. Okay, let's go to style, text color, and change this to theme color 1. And let's change this image. Let's do choose image. We can choose one of our images here, or I can simply drag a new image from my desktop and select that image. Some numbers about Sam. This image is a bit large. Well, we're going to keep it as full and then have to go into style and play with the max width percentage and actually reduce that image. So let's say 50%. Okay. And we want to have this perhaps on top of this section. So I can literally take this whole section and drag it on top of this section. So now it falls before this statistical section over here. And we can see that the alignment isn't looking too great over here. So perhaps I want to make this just 1 column instead of 2. Maybe I made a mistake. So what can I do here? I can take this image and I can drag it and put it in this first column underneath this title. And I can go ahead to this column and right click and delete the whole column altogether. So this is what it looks like. I can go here, click on edit, content. I can center this title. This I can make much smaller. Okay. And we can see that we do have an issue with our, so we played with the borders earlier. So let's fix the borders over here, because if I click on update and go back to my website and hit refresh, we can see now that this line should be in between these sections and it is placed over here. So let's fix that. Let's go back up to Elementor. So we can see that if you remember here, if I click on edit section, we had put a border on top of this section, but we do not want that anymore. So I'm going to actually put this to none. And it's going to be this section here that I want to add a border to the top. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to go to Style, Border, Border Type, Solid. I'm going to unselect the values to be linked. I'm going to add 1 pixel to the top. And I'm going to change the color to black. And now we hit Update. We go back to our website and hit Refresh. And now you can see that the divider is now over here, but we still want to add a bit of spacing. So let's go back to Elementor and click on Edit this section. And we can go to Advanced, unselect the link values, and I can start adding pixels to the top. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to add it via padding. Start adding padding to the top. And it's going to start padding the elements to the top edge of this section. So let's put about 15. I'm going to hit on Update and go back to my website and refresh. Now you can see that the line is a bit better, but not good enough. So let's put this to 20. Update. And now we have this section a bit better spaced, so you can play around with these settings. So this is our biography page. I showed you how to edit the title and image, how to find some text using ChatGPT, how to create a nice toggle element over here, an image carousel, and a counter section. When we hit refresh, we can see that the numbers very nicely animate for us. We have our above footer and our footer. Now towards the end of the video, I'm going to have a section on how to really add visually stylish elements to the website, how to create text that perhaps animates when you hover over it, how to add really nice dividers for the sections and the backgrounds. So right now I'm building, a very solid structure for the basis of this website. And later in the video, I'm going to go over every page and show you how to style it and add more effects. Now that we're complete with this biography page, we're going to go ahead and start changing the next page, where we have it called repertoire over here. However, I want to change this name from repertoire to my work. So in order to change the name of this page, we're going to need to go back to our dashboard in the other tab. And we're going to go on the left-hand side to Pages. And from here, we can see a list of our pages that got created by default with WordPress. And I'm going to go here to Repertoire and click on Quick Edit. And from here, I'm able to change the title of the page. So I will write my work. And for the slug, which is just going to be the page ending of the URL, I'm going to just write my work. And I'm going to click on Update. And we can see here it updated on the left. And if I go back to my website tab and click Refresh, we can see that we ran into an issue. This page does not seem to exist. We do see, however, that the menu updated over here. So let's go back to my Pages section over here and make sure that everything is okay. So we have my work. If I click on my work over here and I close this, and then I click on Edit with Elementor, we can see that our elements seem to be correct. So let's go back and exit by clicking on the upper left-hand icon here and do View Page. And we can see that my work is, the page has returned, the default page at least. This was a weird error. It sometimes happens, and it's just perhaps a moment for Elementor to redefine the page elements because we changed the page name. No problem. So now that we're back to where we want to, we can go ahead and click on Edit with Elementor. First things first, I'm going to change the title over here. So by clicking on the element, and I'm going to write my types of work, and I want to change the color as my previous pages. So I'm going to go to the Style tab and click on this global color icon to go into my theme color 1. Perfect. And over here, I want to change these images. So here we have actually a basic gallery, as it's called. So it's one element with 4 images. I can change these images, but I also wanted to add a piece of text under each image. So actually what I'm going to do is add a image box. And in order to do that, I'm going to first create a section here, and then I'm going to go ahead and delete this section here. And then I'm going to drag it, and it just keeps the work a little bit neater this way in case I need to go back. So let's go ahead and click on Add Section. And I'm going to add new section. And in this case, I want to put down 3 categories. So I'm going to click on a 3-column structure like so. So here we have empty placeholders where I can click on each one and add an element, or I can just go to my Elements tab and drag individual ones. So I'm going to look for a image box. Here we have image box, and I'm going to drag this over here. So here we have our image box, and for the first image box, I want to have a nature tab. So I'm going to choose an image. I'm going to go to Upload Files, and I'm going to drag one from my desktop and select it. Image size is full. The heading will be Nature Photos. And for the description, I'm going to wait until I fill out the other 2 sections, the other 2 columns, and I'm going to use ChatGPT in one prompt to write me 3 descriptions. So here we have nature photos. We can add an external link if we want to. We can reposition the image if we want to. I kind of like it on the top like so, because it's going to be our first element on the page. So now we need to make this image a bit bigger. We're going to go to Style. Here we have Image. So there's image spacing that we can play around with. That's going to change the spacing between the image and the title. So if I do Control Z, it's going to bring it back to my default spacing. It was 15. Here is the width. It's set to 30. We can go ahead and make this much larger if we want to, perhaps even 100. Okay, so now we're at 100%. We have nature photos. We can add a border. Hover animation. All these hover animations I'm going to go over later in this video because I'm going to be adding styling to all of my pages. So please stick around until the end. And I also want to take this chance to remind everybody to please like this video and subscribe. It really helps me and encourages me to create new content for everybody. So We're able to add perhaps an opacity if we want to add a filter on top of it, but we're going to leave this at 1. And a transition duration, this setting is for when we do have a hover animation, but we don't for now. So let's leave it as so. And for the content, we can also change, let's say, the color of the title. So let's put this to our theme color 1. We can change the typography, etc., as well as the color and the typography of the description. But for now, I'm happy with this. So let's change the other sections here. So I can actually go and start individually dragging another image carousel here, or as I showed in a previous section of this video, I can simply right-click, copy, and I can right-click here and paste it. And the reason why I'm going to do this is that it keeps all the image settings and title settings, basically the whole image box settings will be exactly the same. And I can paste it as well here. And now it's going to be a question of just changing the images and text, and all the padding settings and whatnot will be exactly the same. So let's click here. Let's choose an image, upload files, and I'm going to bring one from my desktop and click select. And I'm going to change this title to products or product photos. And I'm going to go to the last one. I'm going to choose image, upload files, and I'm going to drag one from my desktop. And here, I'm going to change this to wedding photos. So now that we have our 3 photos over here, I want to get 3 descriptions for it. So nature, product, and wedding. Let's go back to ChatGPT, and I'm going to say, write me one sentence. Write me 1 or 2 sentences for the following headings. Now I'm going to write nature photos, comma, product photos, comma, and wedding photos. I'm going to hit enter, wait for the list to populate. And now we can see that ChatGPT has very neatly offered me 3 descriptions to go for my headings. So let's copy the first one. Copy. Let's go back to my Elementor tab. So for my nature photos image box, I'm going to click over here, go to content, and I'm going to select all of this dummy text and hit Control V to paste from ChatGPT. There's an extra space here. Okay, so here's my description. Now, if I want to change the way that this text looks right away, I can go into Style and go down to Content, and I can do things like left align, I can center line, I can justify. Perhaps I'm going to stick with left align for now. Looks a little bit neater, but if we want to change in the future, we can change in the future. It's no problem. Okay, so let's go back to ChatGPT. We have our product description. Let's copy that. Go back to Elementor, click over here, select all, paste. Style, content, left line. ChatGPT, copy, Elementor, click, highlight, paste, and style, content, left aligned. And let's also delete this over here since we don't need this gallery, so we can right click and press delete. Okay, so now we have our section over here with my types of work. We have our 3 image boxes over here. So let's go ahead and click on update. And let's go back to our website over here. So last time we had this issue. So I'm just going to click on home and go back to my work. And here we can see that my page is now updated to my types of work. We have nature photos, product photos, and wedding photos. Everything is evenly spaced. We also have our 5 lines of text for each, so the symmetry is upheld. And we're going to continue down and start editing the rest of this page. Let's jump back into my Elementor tab, and we can close this pop-up. So let's scroll down, and I want to edit this perhaps text and add an image to the right of it. And for my specific case, I'm going to delete this section. So let's go ahead and just delete this section right off the bat because we're not going to need it. Delete this as well, delete this as well. Let's add a piece of text and an image over here. So let's go back to ChatGPT and add a prompt saying, write me a piece of text about me, Sam, comma, the photographer of this website. Okay, it's going to populate a list. Okay, so it's actually giving us quite a long answer. We do not need all this. So I'm going to stop generation. I'm going to pick a chunk of text. And let's see over here. I like this piece of text. Let's copy that. Go back to Elementor and click on this heading element, and we can highlight and paste. That's a little long for sure. So let's remove the first bit. And we can leave it like this for now. And I'm going to show you right now how to add an image to the right-hand side. First, I'm going to show you what not to do. If you were to take an image element and try and drag it next to it, you're going to see that you're actually not able to put one next to it. It'll either be on top or below. That's not what we want, because we want to put the image to the right of it. So I'm going to do Control Z to undo. And the reason for this issue is we're working in this section, and the section only has one column. So if you remember earlier when we added a new section, okay, we're able to choose a number of columns from the get-go. So here we have 2, and I can simply drag this into one and bring an image into the other. But let's say we didn't do this. How can I add a second column to this section? It's quite simple actually. All you need to do is right-click on this Edit Column button, and I'm going to hit Duplicate. And now you can see that we have 2 columns side by side, where I can go ahead and delete this heading by right-clicking and pressing Delete. And it's going to maintain the column over here, as well as the column over here. Now we can see that clearly there are some padding issues over here because we want to have a piece of text and an image. So let's work on this padding in order to bring this whole section much smaller. So let's click over here. So now we're in the edit heading of this element. And if we go to advanced, we can see that there as I expected, there is a large padding on the right-hand side of this element. So let's start reducing this and see what happens. So as we've suspected, the padding was the issue over here. So I'm going to keep bringing this down, possibly bringing it down to 0. Perfect. And over here, I'm free to click this button and choose an element. I'm also free to just choose an element anywhere and drag it in. Let's say I was in the middle of editing this section. Instead of wasting extra clicks, I can go up right away to the elements, take an image, and drag it into my section. Keep in mind where the horizontal bar is appearing. So I'm going to drop it. Here we have an image. Now I'm going to go on the left-hand side to choose image. I'm going to go to upload files. And once again, I'm going to drag a image that I've saved on my desktop. Sorry. Let's find that image. Perfect. And I'm going to click select. Now you can see our image appeared over here. I'm going to keep the image size to full as usual. You're able to do some alignments sometimes, but in this case it is occupying the full column, so the alignment will not make a difference. You can go to style and once again play around with the max width setting. So let's do that to perhaps match the text down here. It's close enough. So we can click on update and go back to our website tab and hit refresh. And this is what our My Work page is looking like. So here we have an image. Perhaps I want to add a bit of spacing over here and some kind of line to, add a divide for the sections. And this upcoming show, we will edit this to make it look like the one on my homepage, I believe, where we have our upcoming exhibit being this ephemeral ecosystems. So I'm going to show you how to pretty much duplicate this and put it on our My Works page. We're also going to fix the spacing and the rest of the page. So let's go back to my Elementor tab. And now that we're here, I wanted to add some spacing in between these two sections. So here we can see there's already a space in between the elements and the top of the section. But in this section, we can see that there is no padding or margins whatsoever. So let's click on this edit section. I'm going to go to advanced. And I'm going to unselect the link values together. And I'm going to start adding padding to the bottom. And you're going to see that the line over here is starting to go down since we're adding padding between the elements and the section at the bottom. So let's put perhaps something that looks in between this and this. So let's leave it at 50. And we wanted to add a line in between the sections. So we can add a border to the top of this one, for instance. We can click on Edit Section, go to Style and Border. Border type, I'm going to select Solid. I'm going to unselect the link values, add 1 pixel to the top, and change color to black. Now I'm going to click Update, go back to the website, and hit Refresh. You can see now that there is a divide in between the sections, as well as some spacing. So let's go back to Elementor, add a line at the bottom, and work on the next section. So to add a line at the bottom of this section as well, we just simply need to add a pixel to the bottom. However, when I click on update and go back to the website, we see now that the spacing is much larger here at the bottom than it is at the top. So to fix that, back in Elementor and we go to advanced, we can see that there is a default padding that was applied to this section. We simply need to start reducing the bottom in order to match the top. So let's bring this down. We already see 80 over here, so I believe this will just need to go down to 80, and we should have symmetry now. Let's go back to my page and hit refresh. Now we're symmetrical over here. Okay, so let's go back to my work. Let's go ahead now and duplicate this section to match the one on my home page. So in order to do this, I'm actually going to leave this Elementor page as is. So keep in mind on top, it's saying we're editing my work page. Let's go to my website. Let's find that element on my home page, which is going to be over here. Okay, now I'm going to edit this page with Elementor. Now here you have to just keep in mind that we're editing the home page in Elementor. We also have a tab where we're editing the My Work page, and you're able to edit both pages at the same time. Just don't forget which page you're editing. So back to my home page, I'm going to scroll down to my next exhibit, upcoming exhibit, sorry. And we can simply right-click. Actually, since this is a section, we can actually copy the whole section. We can simply right-click, copy, go to my work, right-click, and paste. So now you see that the whole section duplicated here from my home page. And I'm free now to actually delete this section altogether. So let's go ahead and click on delete. And now we have our upcoming exhibit properly displayed on my types of work page. For this, we're going to keep it towards the bottom of the page since it's not the emphasis necessarily of this page. So I want to actually add a section in between over here. I'm going to click on add section. And over here, I'm going to click on add new section. For now, we're going to keep it as one column. And like I showed you earlier, we can add multiple columns. So let's start with one. And over here, I'm going to go to my elements and I'm going to search for something called tabs. And I'm going to show you what tabs does. I'm going to drag tabs into here. Sorry. And tabs allows you to place multiple tabs and have some contents within each tabs. So I want to make tabs for my different types of work that I do. And I'm going to have a little piece of text and a gallery to go with it as a sample. So I have 3 tabs. So on the left-hand side of the settings here, we have tab 1, tab 2. I'm going to click on add item. So now we have another tab with tab title. Let's click on the first tab 1. I'm going to change this to nature samples. Okay. The content, I'm going to use ChatGPT at the end for that. And I'm going to also place a gallery over here in the sample, nature sample. So to add the gallery, I need to click on add media. I'm going to do create gallery on the left. I'm going to click on upload files. And I have personally saved a gallery of 9 images that I'm going to upload from my desktop. Okay, so I've selected, it pre-selected for me these 9 images. I'm going to click on create a new gallery. Okay, and in the gallery settings, I can change the number of columns. I can do random order. I can change the size of the thumbnail. Sorry, I can change the size. Right now it can be thumbnail size or it can be medium size. Let's keep this at medium size. And I can change the link of clicking this image to either the attachment page. I can perhaps send it to a specific file that the user can download if they want to, or select none. So I'm going to keep it at attachment page. I'm going to click on Insert Gallery. Okay, and once again, what we see here is actually another shortcode. It's going to appear correctly on our website, but right now in Elementor, it's a question of updating and refreshing the page, and then perhaps we would see it. So I'm going to keep it like this and click on Update in Elementor because I want to show you what it's going to look like. Let's go to this tab. This is our home Elementor page. We don't need it anymore, so I'm going to click on here, top left, and do exit. I'm just going to do apply, leave. I'm going to click here on the top left to go back home, and I'm going to open up my site in a new tab. And I'm going to go to my work section. And if we scroll down, we can see that we have a sample of my nature photos over here. And these are the other tabs that have not been updated. And if I were to click on an image, it brings me to a section of, it looks like a post where I can have further information for this image. Or if I had selected none, which I think I will do in Elementor, nothing would have happened had I clicked this page. So let's go back. And let's go back to Elementor. Okay, and if I want to edit those settings, I need to click on the left-hand side of this gallery and click on Edit. And from here on the right-hand side, I'm going to click here and choose None. And before clicking Update, I want to go back to my website. And if I find these images a little bit too large, I can change this in the settings to Thumbnail. Now I'm going to click on Update Gallery. And I'm going to click on Update in Elementor. Go back to my website and hit refresh. So now we can see I have a sample gallery of my images. And when I click on them, nothing is happening. So let's go ahead and finish the rest of the tabs. So let's go to tab 2. Okay, and on the left-hand side, we need to click on tab 2 and change the title to Product Samples. Let's add a media, create a gallery, upload files, and I'm going to upload a gallery of 9 photos from my desktop of products. I'm going to click on create a new gallery, link to none, thumbnail, 3 columns. I'm going to click on insert gallery. Once again, we have the shortcode, and I'm going to do the last tab, click on tab title, change this to wedding samples. Content, I'm going to add media, create gallery, upload files. I'm going to go to my desktop and upload 9 photos. I'm just selecting them here. I'm going to drag them into the window. We have 9 photos. Create a new gallery, link to none, 3 columns, thumbnail, insert gallery. Okay, and I also want to change the dummy text that's over here. So let's go back to ChatGPT. Now I'm going to say a prompt, write me a sentence or two for the following headings, colon. I'm going to write nature samples, product samples, wedding samples, period. And I'm going to say where each is showing a sample gallery of my work. I'm going to hit enter. Okay, let's go ahead and copy this text. Copy, go back to Elementor. In the first nature samples here, I'm going to simply highlight, be careful not to touch anything here because this is the gallery. And as I said earlier, Elementor doesn't necessarily display it correctly, and that's okay. So I'm just going to simply copy only the text and press Control V to put my text. Go back to ChatGPT. I'm going to take this text, copy, go back to Elementor, product samples, copy only the text and hit paste. And the last one for wedding samples, copy, go back to Elementor for the wedding sample section and only select the text and hit paste. I'm going to click on update and go back to my website and hit refresh. So here we have my nature samples. We have my product samples. And we have my wedding samples. I also want to add a heading for this section and some spacing in between here. And maybe play around with some colors. So let's go back to Elementor. And I want to add a heading. So let's go to my elements and select heading and drag it such that the horizontal bar is falling directly above the tab element. So let's drop it here. And let's add a text here. And I will write some of my work. And I'm going to go to style and text color, click on the, global color element and theme color 1. Perfect. And we want some spacing on top of it. So I'm actually going to click on this edit section. I'm going to go to advanced. I'm going to unselect the link values together. And I'm going to add some padding to the top. I believe I will add 50 pixels. And I also want to add some spacing in between the tab element and the heading. So let's click on this tab, edit tabs. Let's go to advanced. Unselect the link values together and start adding some pixels to the top, perhaps 25. Okay, while I'm in the edit tabs section over here, let's see what other settings we can play around with. So there's a horizontal position. There's also a vertical position. Maybe that looks better. Let's click on update and go back to my website and click refresh. Some of my work. I actually like the way that this looks better. So we are now in the vertical settings of the tabs. Okay, let's go back to Elementor and let's click on style. So there's a bunch of settings for the tabs, such as navigation width. If I play around with this, we can see that the width of the navigation can be edited. Let's do Control Z to put it back to default. Border width as well. We can make the borders thicker. Default, I believe, looks like 1 pixel. So we can put it to 2 pixels. The border color we can change as well. Let's change the border color and let's put something a little bit different. Instead of our usual theme color, we can choose another theme color. You see, Elementor doesn't like to display these shortcodes, but nothing to worry about. We can change the background color, the title. We can change the active color so that when we're actually on the active tab, we can change the color. Let's put that to theme color 1. We're able to play with typography, the content color as well. And I like the way this looks for now. Let's click on update, go back to our website and click refresh. So as you see, we have our samples being displayed. And I like the way this works. Some of my work. Okay, let's say you wanted to add another small piece of text below this heading over here. We can go back to Elementor, and it's just a matter of going to my elements, and I can either add a heading or a text editor. Let's add a heading, but I want to make it smaller than this one. So perhaps like a subheading, and I want to place it directly underneath this heading over here. And for subheading, let's go to ChatGPT and ask, write me a subheading for, and then I'm going to do colon, and I'm going to write my types of work, view some samples. Let's see what this decides to give me. View some captivating samples. Let's say I copy this and go back to my Elementor page. I'm going to select this text and paste. I want to change this, so this is where the HTML tag comes into play. Instead of H2, I'm going to select maybe H3 or H4. Let's leave it at H4. And let's add an exclamation mark here. Some of my work, view my captivating samples. Of course, we can go around and play with the style. I can add different color. I can change it to a theme color. Or I think I'm going to just keep it white. Okay, some of my work. Again, all of this is irrelevant how it looks because this is just how Elementor is displaying it, and it is not happy with shortcodes. Nothing to worry about. Click on update and go back to my website and click on refresh. And here we have our samples over here, as well as our upcoming exhibit. And for the rest of the page, I'm going to delete these elements because they're not needed for now. So let's go back to Elementor and scroll down. And I'm going to simply delete this whole section over here since we already have this on our other pages. I'm going to hit refresh, update, sorry. And one final refresh of our My Types of Work page. And we can see that I am sufficiently happy with what I have for now. Above footer and footer always stays the same. The menu has updated to my work. And please stay tuned to the end of the video where I will show you how I'm going to actually add styling elements to all of my websites to really make it pop out and stand, just as it's shown in the introduction to this whole video at the beginning. Now that we're done with here, our last page to work on is the contact page. And let's get ready for the next section. Let's go ahead and start editing this contact page. So on the top, I'm going to click on Edit with Elementor. Once again, we're in our Elementor editing page. And instead of contact, I want to write get in touch with me. And I want to change the color, so I'm going to go to this theme color over here and select theme color 1, get in touch with me. Here we have a icon box where the icon is this location pin where I can edit this icon by searching for any number of icons. You can also upload your own. So we have an icon box, my studio address, you can change the address, title, you can change the description. This is what came default. You can also change the position of the icon to put on the right hand side or the left hand side. And in the style settings, you can change the color of the icon as well as the size. I'm going to do Control Z to go back. And you can rotate. Control Z. And in the content, once again, you can change the color of the title or the description. So let's leave this like so. There's a call me section. Likewise, you can change the numbers. Here I want to take special note that there's a BR in these open and close triangle brackets, and the BR stands for break, and that's what corresponds to this skipping line over here. So if you want to add multiple lines, if I wanted to add a third line over here, I would have to do bracket like this, BR, close bracket, and then type in another number, 555-0123. As you can see, the numbers as such over here. Okay, and we can do +01 just for the sake of it looking even. That's okay. I'm gonna zoom out. And at this mail me section, keep in mind this icon box. You're able to put a email in your description, and in your link over here, a trick for the link to actually link to the user opening up their email client and sending an email. You can write mail to : and then here you can write, Sam at samstudio.com, for example. So keep in mind that we wrote mail to : without any spaces, and then you put your email address over here, assuming it is active. And now when the user would click on this element on your page, it's going to open up their email client and start composing an email to your address. Okay, let's scroll down over here. If we click this element, this is a Google Maps element, and you're able to change the location over here. And by changing the location over here, it's going to actually change the positioning of Google Maps. This is a conventional Google Maps where you can click and scroll. You can also zoom in and zoom out. You can set the zoom level. So if I reduce this number, it's going to zoom out of the actual location. So let's zoom back in. You can change the height of this box. Let's do Control Z to put this back. If we go into style, we can see that under normal circumstance, there's a filter. And if we click this edit filter, we can see that there is a reduction of saturation and hue, which basically corresponds to the map being grayed out. Now, if we want to leave it like this for the normal part, but for the hover part, we want to change the CSS filters over here. We can actually increase the hue or actually we can hit refresh. No, we will need to set the hue such that when you hover over it, it's actually going to propose the correct colorings over here. And I'm not sure what it is exactly that needs to be set. So if we go back to normal and we click here, okay, this is set to 0, 100, 100, 0, 0. Let's click on reset. And if we go back here, 0, 100, 0, 0. Okay, let's click control. Let's go back to hover and reset this. Let's set this to 100. Still not the correct colors. Maybe it is supposed to be at 0. Okay. So now we can see under normal circumstance, it is grayed out. When you hover over it, it brings up the colors. Perfect. In this section over here, we can click on edit image box. Once again, it is using an image box. I'm not sure why by default, but we don't have to worry too much about that. We can add an image here. Let's choose an image. And I'm going to upload one from my desktop called contact and select. Okay, this is what the image looks like here. Clearly there is a size adjusting that needs to be done. So let's go right ahead to style and fix that. So we have image spacing, which corresponds to the spacing. And we have the width, which we're going to go ahead and increase. Let's keep this rather small, why not? Something like that. We can add a border. We could also change the content over here. I want to change the color of the title to my theme color. Okay. And if we go back to content, image position, we can play around with, as we did previously. And if we wanted to change this title over here on the left, we can write send me a message. And for the little description over here, I can go to ChatGPT and write me a subheading for write me a message. Give it a moment. Let's connect and create together. Let's copy that, go back to Elementor and paste this in the description. Okay, nothing too special. That sounds good. Over here, once again, we have a WP form element and not a shortcode. So we can either have pasted a shortcode here, or in this case, there is a WP forms element that you can find here by searching WP forms. Once you were to drag it into here, you're able to select which form you like. So this subscribe form is the one that appears over here, but I want to have a more in-depth form for my contact page. So I'm going to go to simple contact form. And if I wanted to edit the elements of this contact form, I would need to go back to my dashboard, and on the left-hand side, go down to WP forms. And here we have my simple contact form. If I were to click on edit, from here, I can add and remove different elements. And I'm going to create a whole other video on how to use WP forms. But for now, we can keep it the way it is and not play with anything. And it's going to appear like this. So I want to actually align this column content with this column content. So if I were to click on edit column over here and go to advanced, we can see that there is some padding on top as well as the left, right, and bottom. So let's start by removing the padding on top altogether, bring it to 0, as well as the padding on the bottom. We can see that it is the limiting element of this section, and we can leave it like so. Let's leave this at a nice number like 40. And I want to actually increase this to line up with the bottom of the button. So I'm going to click on this element. And click on edit with Google Maps. I'm going to go to content, excuse me, and go to height. And I'm going to slowly drag the height, if not use the arrows on the right hand side, and adjust. Right away I see an issue where the content has some padding on the bottom of this page and none on the top, so I want to add padding to the whole section. So let's click on this edit section button. And let's go to advanced. And unselect this link values together and start adding padding to the top. Let's add perhaps 35 or 40. Now let's click on update. Now let's go back to our website. So let's go back to this tab and click on my website page. Now let's go to contact. And here we can see that our information updated, as well as our website, our maps, where we highlight, when we hover, the colors come into play. We do see some padding on the right hand side and none on the left. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick. Let's go back to Elementor. We can see that there's padding on this column, and by clicking it here and go to advanced, we can see that there is 80 pixels on the right hand side, which means we're going to need 80 pixels on the left hand side here. So let's click on this column, go to advanced, unselect these values, and let's start adding 80 to this side. Now let's click on update and go back to my website and click refresh. And we can now see that the padding is even on left and right, and it's symmetric top and bottom. So here, the visitor to your site will be able to input their information here, whatever they wish, with their email address, subject, and they can write a message. This is my message. And when they hit send, it's going to send it to the contact email that has been set up in WP Forms. By default, it's going to be your admin email that you created in your original installation of WordPress. So I'm pretty satisfied with this contact page. And with that, this has concluded the basic work frame of a website, where we have our home page, we have our biography page. It's looking pretty good. My types of work page, and finally the contact page. In the next section, we're going to be going over how to link all the pages and buttons together. And I'm going to show you how to add stylish elements to your titles and text, even images, to really make your website pop from a static looking website to more of a dynamic and interactive website. So let's get ready for one of the last sections. And if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. And please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. So let's move on over here. So if you've made it this far into our video, we are now at the section where I'm going to start adding styling elements to my whole website. So let's jump right in and click on Edit with Elementor on my home page. I'm going to close this tab as well as this tab. So now that we're on our home page, I want to add some opacity filter to my background over here. So I'm going to click on Edit section, and into Style, we have our background image. And if I want to add a background overlay, I can select a background type of either a classic color, a single color, or a gradient. If I select gradient, I can choose two colors, perhaps. Here we have transparent, but I can choose on the color picker or the primary colors. Let's say we go from white to black. Now we would need to change the opacity here, but we can see that we can change the location of these two colors. And we can also change the opacity. Let's do something like that. We can click on Update. And if I click here and I'm gonna click View Page, but I'm gonna open it in a new tab. Sorry, I'm going to just click on View Page finally. So now we see that we have a gradient overlay. However, it is somewhat interfering with our white logos on top. So I'm going to go back to Edit with Elementor. And maybe I will change this color of the overlay. Instead of white, what if we chose a blue or a green or our theme color altogether? And let's increase this opacity. Sorry, decrease it. And let's click on Update. And let's view our website in a new tab. Okay. Let's fix this text over here. Let's go back to our Elementor page and let's click on Edit this element, Edit heading. And let's change this text to our theme color. So let's go into Style and Text Color and choose our theme. Let's go into Typography and change the weight to perhaps 900 or 800. Okay. And we're going to also perhaps add a background to this whole column over here. So let's click on this Edit column, go into Style and Background. We can choose a gradient as well or a classic color. So let's choose Classic and select a black color. And I'm going to click on Update and go back to my website and click Refresh. And now we see that this is what our homepage looks like. I can reduce this box as well as add some spacing over here. So let's go back to Elementor. Let's click on this column section, go to advanced, and let's reduce the bottom over here to 40, and let's put 40 to the top. I also want to reduce the size of this column. For that, I'm going to need to go into the margin section over here, and I'm going to need to start adding margin to the left, to the right. So as you can see, as I start to increase the margin on the left, it is shrinking this whole column. So let's add 80 on the left, let's add 80 on the right. We can add more, so let's do 120 and 120. We can make it even smaller, so let's try 200 or 300 and 300. Perfect. Now let's click on update, go back to the website and hit refresh. You can see that our section here has completed, our landing page, but I want to add some spacing over here and some other popping elements to the text. So let's click on edit this section and go to advanced and unselect the padding, and let's add some padding to the bottom. Perfect. 20 pixels. Now I'm going to click on this heading. Now in the advanced tab, if I scroll down to transform, we have a normal and a hover tab. So let's click on the hover and let's do scale. And here I'm going to do something like 1.2. And that means that when you hover on top of the text, you can see that it pops up like that. Okay, one other thing that we're going to do is give a motion effect to this whole column. So I'm going to click on edit column. I'm going to go into the advanced tab and to motion effects, and an entrance animation. We can play around with, let's say, fade in, zoom in, bounce in. There's a lot of different options over here for the animations. So feel free to play around and find one that you enjoy. So I'm going to choose zoom in, duration, fast, and animation delay. We can put, let's say, 200 milliseconds and click on update, so that when I go back to my website, hit refresh, and this will simulate someone visiting your website. We can see that our name over here pops up after 200 milliseconds, and you're able to have some motion with it. So let's scroll down and go back to Elementor. Now, for this section over here, likewise, I can add these entrance animations for all the elements, as well as the scale, which I really enjoy. So if I click over here and go to advanced, transform, hover, scale, I can do 1.1 perhaps. Okay. This image over here, if I click on that, we can also do a entrance effect. So if I do motion effects, entrance animation, let's find one that looks pretty decent. It's a matter of finding one that you enjoy for your specific website. We can do zoom in, And we can apply the same to this one, for example. Zoom in. We can also add something towards each section or column. So let's say for this column over here, I'm able to change the background, perhaps on hover, where on hover, the background is going to go to a black color, as you see. So once again, if I want to change this element here in advanced settings, I can transform it such that it scales on hover to maybe 1.1. And on this heading, I can transform I can choose a motion effect on entrance, such as bounce in. I can make this slow, I can make this fast, I can also delay it. What I can do for these images, these are actually image boxes. If we go to style and image under hover, we can perhaps add an opacity so that when you hover over it, we can see that it changes a filter. We can add CSS filters to that, such as blur. See? We can remove saturation so it becomes black and white. And we can do the same for the other images as well. So I can actually go ahead, right click and copy, and I can paste style. And I can paste style. So now we have some motion effects over here. And if we scroll down, let's add something for this section over here. So if we click on edit section and go to style, background, let's do background on hover. We can select a color. Let's select black so that when you hover over this section, it becomes black like so. And if I'm happy with that, I can right click copy and I can paste the style here. And I can paste the style here. Paste the style and paste the style. So now when the visitor on your website will hover over a certain section, they're going to get highlighted and it adds a nice element to your page. Here we can continue down, upcoming exhibits. Again, this whole section, we can change the color. Let's add something a bit more funky. If we go to edit section and style, we have background where we can hover and put a gradient of, let's say, from black, and the second color is, let's choose one from here. Let's say, see this is how it's going to look like right now when we hover. So we can do from black to this funky red color, but we can change the location of each color. We can make it half-half like this. We could also change the angle of the gradient such that it's coming from one side or another. So now it's from left to right. You have to play around with the angle. I actually like this left to right business, so I'm going to put an angle of 9 degrees. And for the locations, I'm going to decrease this one and decrease this one such that we get some kind of a fade going on. Let's bring this up. Let's bring this down. We can edit the transition duration so that it's a little bit longer to actually make the switch. Okay. And let's click on update and go back to my website and hit refresh. This is my website over here. We have some elements over here that had some animation. See, these popped up. If I click refresh, maybe I will add some delay to this so that it's a smoother transition when I go to scroll. Here we have our filters. Here we have our sections that highlight as we hover over them. And we have our upcoming exhibit, which really pops when the user will hover over it, showing us our next exhibit that's coming up. Okay, so I wanted to edit some of the timings here. So let's go back to Elementor. And I believe it was this section here. So let's, for example, edit this heading and go to motion effects, entrance. Let's do bounce in. And let's delay this by 600. And let's click on this edit heading, go to motion effects, bounce in, normal, and instead of 600, let's do 700. Let's click update, go back to our website, and let's hit refresh. This I'm going to change to bounce in as well because I don't like it too much, but now you see when we scroll down, we have a nice pop-up over here. And let's go back to Elementor and this whole section as well. We can go to advanced motion effects, entrance. We can do bounce in and up. And we can delay this by maybe 800 milliseconds. I also said I'm going to be changing this whole animation from zoom in to bounce in. Perfect. Let's click on update. And let's have one last look at our home page. And there you have it. So I'm liking the way that this is looking. Let's move on to the next page, which is going to be my biography. Now that we're on my biography page, let's go ahead and do edit in Elementor. And first things first is I want to create some entrance and hover animations for my header over here. So let's click on this edit heading button, go to advanced. First, let's start with transform, and on hover, I want to scale to 1.2, like so. And a motion effect of entrance, we want to do bounce in. Okay, perfect. For this image, let's find an interesting feature to add. We can go to style, and on hover, We can do a hover animation if we want, where we can shrink the image. We can pop the image. There's a bunch of different settings. You can sync the image. Or you can wobble the image. Let's keep it at a wobble. Here we have our header, where of course for each element we can go into motion effects and do some kind of text animation, bounce in right, advanced motion effects, bounce in right. Okay, now here we have our tabs. We can also do bounce in right. You know, we can add some delay. Let's do 800 here. Let's do 700 here. Let's do 600 here. Okay, we can keep scrolling down. Here we have our image gallery, our carousel. Once again, we can edit this style. Where we can, as shown earlier, play around with the border radius. Border radius over here allows us to add some rounding to our corners of the border. And let's reduce this a little bit and add perhaps a little bit more. So now it's more of a rounded edge for each image. We can also go on this whole column over here. And once again, in style, background, and hover, we can put a color, perhaps black, where when you hover over it, this section becomes black. Adding contrast and allowing users to perhaps zone in on this section. Once again, we can add any other animations we like over here. One thing I would like to do, first of all, is to update and go back to my website. So here I can exit this page, go back home and open up my website, go back to biography. So now we see our biography has a little bit more life to it. And as we scroll down, you can see that our information is showing up. So we have our hover. I would like to add a section divider over here. So to do that, let's go back to Elementor. And we're going to need to add a border to this section like we did earlier. So let's do edit, style, border, solid, unlink. Let's do 1 pixel and color will be black. And we're going to need to go to advanced and start adding margin. Margin to the, not margin rather, but padding. Let's unselect this, start adding padding to the top. Let's say 20. Let's go to update, back to website and hit refresh. Now we see that our section is divided over here. Let's add more spacing and actually change the background of this section into something a bit more interesting. So let's put this to 50, or rather 250. And let's add the same to the bottom. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this edit section button. I'm going to change this background by going to style, background. I'm going to choose a simple white color for now. Okay. Sorry, instead of white, we're going to choose black. Or a gray, rather. We'll choose the original gray. But what I want to do here is edit this section, and I'm going to go to Shape Divider on the top. And here I can add shape dividers that will actually change the section. This one looks a little bit too cartoony for me, but you can do something a little bit more funky like that. You can play around with these settings. You can keep it simple, such as split. You can play around with the width and the height. Okay, what I'm going to choose is, for the sake of this website, I'm going to choose waves. And how am I going to make this more appealing? I will need to first change this section background, not to gray. Let's choose a completely different color just for the sake of this experiment. Let's do blue like this. And what we need to do is actually change this section of the wave to this gray in order to make it more seamless. So this is in the shape divider. This color, I need to select the color of the wave. And I'm going to choose the gray that is used in our theme color. I believe it's this one. Okay. What else do we need to change here? This text is kind of hard to read in its default state. So let's go ahead and click on Edit Heading and go to Style. And let's change my text color to something a bit darker. Let's change this to black. Some of my beautiful photos. And let's change the typography. Let's change the weight to maybe bold or extra bold. Okay. And for this hover animation, we can click on this column over here, go to Style and Hover, and we can actually change the background type to a gradient on Hover, where the first color is black, and we can change the second color to blue. So it looks something like this. It still maintains the integrity of our text and still adds a feature of highlighting when the user goes over it. So let's go ahead and click Update. Let's go back to our biography section and click on Refresh. Now you see our biography page has a nice shape divider like so, where you can change colors as much as you like. Okay, and now we get back to the bottom of this page. Let's go back to Elementor. And I want to do the inverse here, where we have a cloud, we have a wave that's going to go back into gray. And for that, we're going to need to edit this section over here. So let's click on Edit Section, Style, Shape Divider. At the top, we're going to choose Waves. Okay. We're going to fix all the colors over here, not to worry. And for this waves, I'm going to select on the primary color. Okay. Now we need to figure out this gap. We need to remove this gap. So that might be in advanced. We have padding. That padding has nothing to do. So it's actually going to be in this setting over here of this section. We have to go to advanced. And we need to remove the margin off the bottom. Let's set this down to 0. And let's remove that border line that we had over there from style and border. I'm going to simply set this to none. Let's click on update and go back to our website just to see how it looks like. And now we can see that this section has updated. So I'm going to need to remove some spacing here, as well as make sure that this section falls in this gray over here. Let's go back to Elementor. And let's start by removing some spacing over here. So that's going to be by editing this section, going to advanced, and there's padding at the bottom. Let's set this to maybe 150. And we can set the top to 150. Or maybe 200 for the top. Okay. And if we go to this section here, edit and style shape divider. Okay, we're actually able to change the way that the shape looks like. Feel free to play around with it. It could really be a minor wave, such as that. Likewise, we can reduce the intensity of this shape divider by reducing this height a little bit. And in order to maybe push this whole section down, I can go to this edit section in advanced, and I can add padding to the top to bring this section down. Let's click on update, go back to biography and hit refresh. Now we can see that our sections are a little bit more visually appealing over here. And that looks pretty good for my biography page. Now for my work page, my types of work, let's go ahead into edit with Elementor. Once again, I'm going to edit this heading and add some motion effects. Entrance, let's do bounce in. We can slow this down and add a delay. We can transform on hover to scale it to 1.2. And once again, we can also edit this section and do a motion effect, entrance, bounce in, maybe down, or maybe up. We can do slow and a delay of maybe 300 milliseconds. Okay, now for these each elements, once again, we can edit image box. We can go to advanced, transform hover. We can also scale this maybe 1.1 so that when you hover over it, it will actually scale the image 10%. Okay, we can do other things such as hovering, and we can add an animation such as a wobble. It's just adding some life to your images. Okay. So we can right click, copy, right click, paste style, right click, paste style. So now when we click on update, go back to my website. Let's do this. This is what this page is now looking like. Adding some life to your elements for sure. Let's go ahead and edit this section now. So let's go back to Elementor and scroll down. For this section, let's edit this text by clicking edit heading, going to advanced, motion effects, entrance animation. And we can choose perhaps a slide from the left, and this one we can go to advanced, and we can do slide from the right. Slide in left, slide in right. We can change the background of this section by clicking over here, style, background. Let's put a classic, maybe black background. And let's add some shape dividers at the top. We can add maybe some mountains. And again, we can change the height of the mountains. We can also change the default color so that it blends in. And we can do the same on the bottom. So we can do mountains. We can choose the color and reduce the height. I believe it was 57. We can also add some general padding to the top and bottom by clicking on Edit Section, Advanced. And let's start adding a little bit more padding. Let's bring this to 100. And let's bring the bottom to 100. Okay. As we scroll down, we have a new section over here. Once again, we can add some entrance animation. Fade in, slow it down. Here we can add fade in, slow it down. We can also add a hover transformation where it scales to 1.1. Okay. Maybe 1.1 is too much. So let's actually put 1.05. Okay. Now we're at our tabs page, tabs element, where we've done some styling to it for sure. Okay. And keep in mind that Elementor is not showing it correctly, and that's totally fine. And we want to create the same gradient here as we did on the other page. So I'm going to go back to my website page, go to home page, where we find our next exhibit element. Let's click on Edit with Elementor. Let's scroll down. And let's find this section here. I'm going to right click, copy, go over here, right click, paste style. And now we have the same background animation appearing. Let's go ahead and click on update. Let's go back and view my page. And here we have my types of work. We have some animation here. We have a nice shape divider over here. This two elements appeared from the sides. These guys faded in. And we have our upcoming exhibit where we can buy tickets. Okay, so this completes this work page. And the last page to go ahead and edit is going to be the contact page. Now that we're in the contact page, let's go ahead and edit with Elementor once again. We can edit this heading, and we can add some entrance and transform hover settings. Let's change the scale to 1.2. And an entrance animation of bouncing in from the left. We can slow this down. Likewise, we can add an effect to this whole setting, to this whole section by going into motion effects, entrance, bounce in up, and we can slow it down and add a delay. Likewise, we can do it for this section as well. Why not? We can add a delay. Okay. Here we can get funky a little bit with the shape dividers. We can add one to the bottom where we know the bottom is going to be black. If we exit here and go to my contact page, we can see that it goes directly from this gray to this black. So let's add a little something here by going into this section, this overall section, edit section. And we're going to go to style and shape divider. And on the bottom, we have to be careful here because this is not the true bottom of the page. This is showing an area where you can add another element. So imagine that this bottom is connected to this black over here. So let's add a shape divider to the bottom. We can keep it very simple. It could be an arrow like this, and we can increase the width. And we can make this arrow black. Okay, and I'm going to click on update. I want to go back to my get in touch with me page and hit refresh. We have our elements that pop up and our little shape divider here that looks pretty great. So this contact page looks pretty good. You can add animations to any of these elements. So let's go back to our home page. And what's going to be left to do is editing how these menu items animate when you hover over them. Right now we have them set such that when you hover, the color changes. But what if I wanted to make the values scale by 1.1 like we did in Elementor? As we know, this is done in the customizer. So how do we do that? Stay tuned. I'm going to show you how to change these buttons. So for these buttons, we're going to go ahead and click on Customize. And once again, I'm going to click on this Edit this element button over the menu buttons. And here we can go into Design. And we can change certain settings, such as zoom in, underline, overline. We can choose zoom in. Okay, if we click on publish and I go back to viewing my page, we can see that the buttons now, they say zoom in, I think maybe zoom out, but we can see that there is a nice animation to these menu items over here. Okay, let's go back to our customizer. So there's a bunch of different border settings that we can add. I'm okay with not having a border in my menu section. This is an interesting settings over here for the menu color. So first we have our normal color, our hover color, and our active color. So we have both of these the same color right now, so that when you're on hovering, it's changing to our yellow that we want. Likewise, if we're on the home page, we have it selected as well. Now, what if we wanted to maybe add a background to the active page? So this is active over here for the background. Let's click this and let's change maybe to black. So you can see now, depending on which page you're on, you're going to be at a certain color instead of black. We can play around with the settings here, maybe make it a bit transparent, just to add a bit of contrast. Okay, that looks pretty good. We can change the font and add certain spacings as well. So let's go ahead and click on publish. And let's go back to our website and hit refresh. So now we see when we change pages, we have our menus working here, but we don't see the background color because we have chosen the same gray. So let's stay on this page and open up our customizer. And let's edit this button over here. And let's go to design. And once again, let's change our background. Instead of gray, let's put something that's going to be shown over here, maybe like a light blue. And let's add some transparency to that, or rather lower it, so it's something like that. Let's click on publish, and let's exit this. So now we have, this color seems to be better for our menus. And that's how you change your menu styling such that it's a little bit more animated and it feels like the user is engaged. And that's a wrap for today's tutorial. Today I showed you how to create your very own portfolio website from scratch using WordPress, Astra themes, and Elementor. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed creating and sharing it with you. This was one of my more in-depth videos where I really showed you step by step on how to create special elements, how to duplicate them, and how to create animations and more interactive elements and styling to your website. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. It encourages me to create more and more content for everyone out here. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below, and I will be sure to answer every single one of you. Until next time, my name is Sam. Thank you.